And happy Friday, everyone. I am live again. It's Friday, 17th January. Super excited to have this half an hour with you. My name is Zora, and these Level Up Lives are my way of helping your brains, kind of overburned brains, have a little bit of an inspiration instead of doom scrolling your feeds and emails on a Friday afternoon. So wherever you are joining me, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever, always like it when somebody drops me a comment to know that things are working as planned. So keep on comments coming so I know everything is working as should. All right, today, last time we talked about micromanagement. Today is almost like a topic that goes hand in hand with it. All right. Knowing it all and having this kind of need as a leader to know it all goes quite hand in hand with micromanagement. So that's what we're going to tackle today in 30 minutes. And here's the agenda that I've covered for you. So very first, the pain. What is the know-it-all wound? Where does it come from? The cost, the silent damage, kind of like what's the cost that individuals and companies pay for it? But then also the third, what's the change? Why is humble leadership something that can really help teams to outperform and retain the incredible talent that they have? And then at the end, as always, I will leave you with an exercise to be put in your toolbox for the coming weeks to try on. Great. Let's kick it on. For those of you who are perhaps seeing me for the first time, very shortly, I am Zora. 20 years in HR, 9 of those at Apple, but also other ones, Ericsson, Deloitte, IKEA. And then roughly a year ago, I said to myself, you know what, time to try my own wings and go solo. So I did. So that is what is my background. I'm a psychologist, so whatever I do and share is an evidence-based method behind it. And also I've coached executives for all these years, over 400 in total. And I'm a culture builder, so I support also corporations with it. But well, you did not come to talk about me today, but you came to hear about topic of, do we really need to know all the answers or not? And that relates to humble leadership, right? Are we willing to be humble? Or do we need to feel like we are knowing it all with our teams? Great. Let me continue. So the know-it-all leader and the wound behind it. First of all, we go through the pain. What is the pain that, or the behaviors that are generating this kind of negative impact? And what is the negative impact of those kind of know-it-all behaviors? So know-it-all leaders have all the answers. They will fake certainty when things are not certain. They will struggle to admit when they are wrong. They don't ask for team's input, right? I'm pretty sure some of you may have worked with know-it-all leaders. I certainly have worked with, but also I've coached leaders who have this need to know it all and kind of always have an answer. If you talk about, I don't know, the current weather condition in Africa, they will have a viewpoint. If you discuss about the belly dancing in Istanbul, they also will have a view and knowledge about that. Kidding. but that's how far it can go. So let's think about what are the kind of psychological root causes of this. So if those who have been in my last week's session about micromanagement, probably you have heard that that I was kind of referring to these similar types of root causes, and that's really where it's rooting from. So you have that imposter syndrome. You have the imposter syndrome there that is connected deeply into the insecurity, feeling like, oh boy, if I don't know the answer, will I come across as a fraud? And that kind of trying to hide vulnerability, right? And then you have the cognitive discomfort. And let me explain this one again. So you have people as well who say, you know what, I totally believe in not knowing it all. And they might start with the approach of saying, you know what, I don't know it all. I maybe they might even go as far as say I'm the least who knows things. But then comes the discomfort when they need to take a risk and actually come to a place where they don't have the answer. Comes the discomfort and they lean towards actually, making commentary, giving answers, winging it, and kind of covering their own discomfort with that faked certainty. So that's the discomfort. So on one hand side, they might be really clear on this is what I want, and this I want to, I don't know. But when it comes to the moment when you actually need to show that you don't know, yeah, that's when it's hard. Yeah. And then they lean more towards actually giving those answers instead of saying, I recognize this is a challenge for me. I'm willing to sit with this discomfort and I will shift my response. Make sense? Great. Then the last one as a root cause is, as we discussed, the kind of maintaining dominance. So a lot of micromanagers have the need to maintain control, but then also toxic leaders. Not all micromanagers are toxic leaders, but all toxic leaders have a very strong need for control, ego, power, and control. So that can be also a root cause there. Perfect. So just to help you understand, the know-it-all and the micromanagement go quite hand in hand. So just if you haven't seen the micromanagement one, have a look at that, because that will help you to understand a bit of the dynamics there. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. Let me see who's there. Katarina, Maria. Hello, Maria. Good morning to Chicago, I think you are from. And Katarina as well. Hello. Lovely to have you as well on board here. Right. Let's move forward. What's the cost? Because a lot of leaders, and if they are themselves know-it-all, they do it from a place of, but I'm just trying to help. My answers, I'm just trying to support and give support, kind of like help my team. And leaders of know-it-all leaders also think, well, that's what they should be doing. But there is a business cost to it. And here's what it is. You become or build leader-dependent teams. So you build almost those toddler teams where kind of the team members feel the need to ask for permission from their leaders all the time. Not only permission, but first even the answers, right? And that kind of leader-dependent teams, do you think they are outperforming? Do you think that teams that are waiting for the leader to have all the answers are outperforming, outcreating? No. Second, low psychological safety. If your leader is coming across as somebody who always knows the answer, who always has a view, who never gets it wrong, or if he does, manages somehow to explain it as a mistake, whatever, well, mistake or circumstance or whatever. If that's the reality where you live, you probably don't want to open up and say, "Ooh, I screwed up. Ooh, I don't know." Because if your leader sees that as a weakness, you don't feel safe in that environment, right? And what does that do? That stagnates development. Because we grow in the moments where we stretch, we take personal risk. And the whole psychological safety is based on idea of what is the interpersonal risk I am willing to take in this team. And development is a lot about interpersonal risk and the willingness to fumble, the willingness to ask for help, the willingness to say, I don't know. So that is one of the costs. And then the last but not least, and this must be a bit surprising for the know-it-all leaders, is that, yeah, as you seem to know everything about the belly dancing in Istanbul, as well as the African weather in midst of January, yeah, your credibility eventually goes down instead of going up. Because your team will see the bluff. You become the leader of hot air rather than content, authenticity, and at times vulnerability to say, I don't actually know. Great. I see there are questions coming. Let me take first one. Katerina, how can leaders balance humility and confidence when admitting they don't know something to ensuring they maintain trust and respect from their team? I love this, Katerina. I'm gonna take this question after the next slide because we will go into the change and it will help you understand how do you actually balance with the confidence and actually maybe you don't need even to balance it. Maybe your confidence increases when you shift away from know-it-all. I'll come back to that later, but it's going to be explained in a moment. Thanks for the question. Right. Let's move forward. So the whole idea of these level up lives is kind of how do we level up the game, the leadership game, the culture game. And what I've promised to do today is to cover 3 points. I'm using Edgar Schein's A Humble Leadership. Edgar comes from the MIT, which is absolute favorite. And during my studies with MIT, I discovered his work, probably quite late, I must say. I discovered his work on humble leadership. And I thought, this is so groundbreaking. This is everything about moving from tell to ask, and really, really valuable work. And he talks about the 3 levels of relationships that I want to share with you. And this, Katerina, helps to understand how do we kind of move from confidently from the tell approach and knowing it all to the I don't know. I don't know it not. Good. Then to make it easy and practical, you know what? That's what we are here for. I have scripted 5 ways to say, I don't know, or I don't have a clue. So I want to help you to gear up to the moment when next time you can practice that. And at the end, I have an exercise, because at the end, when I work on behavior change or executive development, I always kind of help to bring in the fact that behavior change is always related to the wirings that we have developed over the years. Yeah, makes sense. So we have a little exercise at the end that will help you to prepare for the next time you have the urge to maybe know it all. And then you will pause. Then you will pause and say, you know what? I don't know. Or why don't we look at this one together? Don't have the answer. Good. Let me move forward. So Edgar Schein has done incredible work in MIT regarding organizational and culture studies and written books. The latest one is Humble Inquiry. I had it, but now I forgot to take it with me. Read it, super cool and valuable insights. But he basically says there are 3 levels of relationships, both privately and in professional life. The first level is what he calls the kind of transactional. And this is based on the roles, the interactions we have. It's more formal. And the expectations come from those roles. And it's really functional, task-focused, and whoever has authority and kind of competence or experience then kind of is the trust and builds the trust or kind of encompasses the trust, right? So this is very much the know-it-all type of relationships. So these are the leader-dependent teams where the leader is seen as the one who knows it all. And they tell those to the teams. The second, as you can imagine, is then where the leader actually says, you know what? I'm more of a person to person. I'm not the boss to employee. I'm a person to person with my team. And that's where they kind of go more into a place of ask and build self-driven teams. And in these teams, leaders and teams connect as people, less as titles, but more as people. And they are built from a place of curiosity where leaders say, you know what? I'm really curious to hear what my team thinks, feels, and what ideas they have. They don't believe that I have all the answers as the leader because I have the authority and the competence. They say, you know what? There's a lot of things that I don't know, and therefore I'm curious to learn from my team as well. And collaborative and transparent communication, where if they don't know, they are transparent about it, and they kind of pull in the team to help in those moments. So it's more of a partnership with the leader than commanding. The level 1 is commanding. The level 2 is more in a partnership. You might ask, hey, so where's the third one, Zora? You said 3 and this is 2. Either you have issues with mathematics or I'm missing something here. Like I said, this works both in our professional lives, but also private life. So the third level is actually the intimate relationships we have. Our spouses, the super close friends, the family. And as that is not exactly part of our work environment, or sometimes it is, if you work in a family-owned business or you fall in love with somebody at work, well, then it comes to the play as well. I have my own views about that. We can have another live session about romances at workplace. Not the topic for today. But yeah, that's the third level, which I haven't mentioned here, but that's more the intimate relationships as the third one. if you have any questions about this, what practical steps can leaders take to foster culture where admitting I don't know is seen as strength rather than weakness? We are coming just to that point about what are the smart ways to say I don't know. So I'm going to answer that in a moment as well. But this is the kind of like where you can start balancing humility and see, you know what? I can shift from the level 1 to level 2 with my team. And actually, the gain that I'm going to get out of it is so much more powerful than what I can do when leading the team on the level 1. I have another comment here. Silence is unnerving. You naturally tend to create a false narrative and it negatively impacts the culture. Absolutely, yeah. Totally agree with you, Maria, on this one. And I think this is the part where I'm sure many of you have been in teams where when a leader is speaking, there's like crickets in the team. And you just know people are not engaged. People have checked out, watching their phones, and the leader keeps on talking instead of asking, probing for questions, getting the team to collaborate. Let's move forward. So here are a few ways that you can say, I don't know, and shift, like you were asking, Katarina. How can you shift like practically from knowing it all to saying, I don't have actually a clue, without feeling like you are coming across as a fool? So first thing, what you can do is reframe the curiosity, the uncertainty into curiosity. So instead of saying and winging from the hip and shooting out a kind of like a assumption and saying, I believe, you say, well, that's a good question. I'd like to really go deeper into that together with you. Yeah. So that's almost like reframing from I know it or I will fake the certainty to I'm curious to kind of go deeper into this question. The second one is how do you invite the team member to share their view? Instead of saying, well, I think we should, you say, you don't know, I don't really have an answer to that yet. What's your view? As simple as that. But if you have those root causes that we discussed before, it's sometimes super hard to actually say that, but you need to practice it. Another one option is to say, you know what? Ooh, that's a challenging issue. If you have a really high complexity question, you can kind of like lean into the building collective ownership. As we saw, that's the part of the second level of relationships. And say, you know what? That's a tricky one. Why don't we take it together with the team? And the fourth one is own the process, not the answers. During COVID, we finally saw a lot of leaders saying, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's just move on, people. Funnily enough, after COVID, we didn't learn anything about that. We went straight back to the kind of like, you know what, we know it all. Thank God COVID is gone and we can be again these all-knowing leaders. Instead of saying, hey, there was something cool about the time when instead of saying, just trust me, this is the right way, we said, you know what, we don't have all the answers, but this is the right path. Let's keep going, and we build commitment. And then the last one is be accountable with the follow-up. I don't know how many times I've heard the let's take it offline, let's park it, let's circle back. And leaders never do. It's almost like a little trash bin, emotional trash bin, where they put those questions to avoid them. So say, I'll research this and get back to you by, I don't know, next week, tomorrow, whatever that would be. Show that you are proactive, not passive. So humble leadership, this is the benefit, and this is the gain. Humble leadership helps us to build speak-up cultures. This is pure research, that humble leaders have this ability to create speak-up cultures and increase psychological safety. Also, innovation and creativity is going to be boosted because people feel, you know what, my thoughts matter here. I can share my ideas. Or if the sink is going to ship, I can alarm people that I think we are going to the wrong direction. And also building trust in the team is going to increase. Plus also the credibility of the leader, because the team sees, yeah, my leader knows things, but also when he doesn't know anything about belly dancing in Istanbul, he's willing to say that, right? So there's the gain out of it. But I promise to you an exercise, as I feel that having something tangible at hand that you can do at the end of this is really, really good. But before I do that, just reminding you, on my website, Level Up, Zora.com/level up, you will find all the upcoming events. There is this, next week, we are going to look into how to keep your cool instead of losing it. So if that interests you, go register. Or any of the other ones. More to come. Let me see if I can take another question. As a registered, I get all kinds of questions on food, diet, and nutrition, and it's hard to keep up with all the evidence-based research I use. Yes, I think that's the challenge. But also with leaders, you know what? These are complex, in some cases, complex psychological themes and topics, and it's a pity. Not every leader has time to scroll through what do great minds in MIT think about. So that's really, really, really key to bring this alive in a way that is easily absorbable by leaders. Okay. So this is the rewiring I'm going to challenge you to do. Because as I say at the bottom, humility isn't a mindset. It's a skill you can develop with practice. So this is the part where we start to rewire our brains. So first, you need to look back. What was the last moment when you jumped the gun, answered, faked an answer? Write it down. Might be a bit embarrassing. Nobody's going to watch. Just write it down. Then define the cost. What did it cost you? The fact that you had an answer or faked an answer, what did it cost you? And what could have been the gain if you just said, sorry, don't know. Let's figure it out together. And then rewrite the response in that moment. Rewrite now that you know that there's a benefit out of not knowing it all. Rewrite your response. How would you handle it differently? And then the last one, and this is part of behavioral change and behavioral activation. Practice the change. Pick up the next meeting next week and think, okay, when I'm going to use this opportunity to practice not knowing, and write down what's your go-to sentence. The 5 that I've shared, maybe one of those works for you, but if there's a better one that you have, you want to use that, but write it down. And then when the moment comes, try to practice it. First, you might miss it. Second time, you might miss it, but then go back quickly and say, oh, hold on. Can we look at it together? And the third time, you won't miss it. Perfect. That's my challenge for you, the hands-on takeaway. Where can you find it? I'm going to post it right now in the lounge where all the material from all my lives are available for free for anyone who is interested. The one thing I learned from MIT is uh, they do entrepreneurship accessible for everyone. And I want to build a place where executive development is also accessible to anyone who needs that. So welcome to my lounge. Go register, it's free, and you will find the keynote, the tool, and my replay there as well. Any last questions? We are at the time. Here was one. How can a leader effectively turn I don't know moments into opportunities for team growth and collaboration? By doing the rewiring, Katerina, by doing the rewiring and starting to practice that. And afterwards, if you are the HR business partner, you can ask what was the benefit out of it? How is it impacting your team engagement and team ownership? Very good. I want to have timely landing of this 30-minute session. Was really lovely to have people on board again, and I look forward to see you next week about how do you keep your cool. Right. Wish you all a wonderful weekend and see you next week.